Be back in this lecture. We are going to look on the power of the Ion library. What is an Ion library? Let us try to search it here. Ion library, Android, and we see. Click on this one, Kush/Ion. This is the guy who developed this amazing library. He's called Kushduta. I like this guy. This guy is really amazing. So he made this library. Let us wait for it to load. It's an Android asynchronous network and image loading library. So it can be able to load like such an example of a list item. So you see here there is an image, here there is a word, and here there is a word. When you try to scroll down, they'll show you here download Maven, download Git. Here they will show you also the features of this library, this powerful library. There is asynchronous download. It can help you to download asynchronous data, images, JSON, and files. Easy to use Fluent API designed for Android. It can help you for HTTP post, transparent usage of HTTP features, etc. There are lots of things here, but for us, we are going to concentrate on JSON. And maybe at the end of this lecture, we are going to look also on the images, onto how this library deals with images. Now, let us go down here. This is where they placed their dependency. So you copy this, compile, file.com, Kushduta. This guy made this library and named his name the library. So his name is called Kushduta. You can search about this guy, and he's a friend of mine on Twitter. He's a good guy. So you copy this compile.com something, and then you come back in your application, navigate to Gradle scripts, and then come here down. You'll see build.gradle. Come here, inside dependencies, you see here, inside here you try to copy it around there, compile, Kushduta, blah blah. So let us try to refresh, rebuild the project. Just wait a bit. Now it is done. It is done to sync the project. Let me hope you are successful on this step, but ensure that your internet connectivity is good enough, because you cannot refresh whenever you add in a dependency. You have to make sure that you have an internet connection, because sometimes it tends to download some components from other internet resources. We are done with the refreshing. Let us go back to our main activity, since here is where the recycler view is best. I think we remember how to do that. Let us go back in our main activity, and we create our small method here. We are going to say public void load food list. Let us call it load food list, and then we open the brackets, and we close and then we open our method. So this is our method, local food list. We are going to customize this method to download all the information from the RESTful web, which is this, into our mobile application. And how are we going to use that? We are going to use an Ion library. When you try to look here on the Ion library, we are going to deal with lists, since we are having a list of items. There are also several ways of dealing with this. You can use JSON objects, you can use Word, but for our case, we are having a list. In other words, we are going to be having something which is going to look like this one. We are going to make something similar to this one. A person can be able to copy this one, and we embed it in our application. Let us copy this, as we said, and we paste it here. Oh, sorry, I didn't copy it. Copy, paste. When we paste it here, try to import it, control space, ion. Here they demand a context. Inside here .load, this is where you put the URL of the data which is coming. Then here as new token, as new type token, here you enter the list of the token type. And then here we also insert the list name here where you see the red. And also here in this onComplete method, in the onComplete method, this is whereby you place the logic. This is whereby you place any logic you wish, if at all the retrieval is complete, if at all you have finished to retrieve what you wanted. What would you want to be viewed on the screen of the mobile? Something like that. So let us first deal with this one. Let us declare here, for the purposes of being clean, and we are going to say private context terminate. We have dealt with this context, has gone. Here we are going to do what? To put the URL. How are we going to do that? We are going to come here and we copy all this URL, copy, and then come back here and you paste it, the whole of it here. But this URL is not going to work because we are going to run this this mobile application on the mobile app. So this localhost thing can be detected on the machine, but it can't be detected on the mobile phone. So since I have used hotspot on my machine, I can use that advantage to get the IP address of the localhost, since it is the same mobile since it is the same mobile which is going to access the APK file. So in other words, what I'm trying to say, my mobile, my Android phone is connected onto this machine via the hotspot here, this hotspot. So I'm going to use this advantage to make a connectivity between these two devices. Now the scenario you're having, my computer is acting as a server, and this Android phone I'm having here is going to be acting as the phone of the user. Meaning that this localhost will not work. We have to look for something else. And how are we going to do that? You press Windows button R, and then you type CMD as you see there, press enter, and then here you type ipconfig. They will show you, you try to search for what we call wireless LAN adapter Wi-Fi, and then you copy this IPv4 address. When you want to copy in this command, you press enter. Enter is the one which copies this one. So when you press enter, rub localhost, and you paste this IP address. So for this case, this one will work. Even you can try to copy this and you run it inside here. If at all the mobile hotspot is on, it will also run the page. So you can also add these remaining references for the API, and you press enter. It should be able to work. So this one also works. But when you switch off the hotspot, it will not work because there won't be any internet connection. We are done with that. Let us go to this one. As new token type here, tweet. Since for us here our model is food model, we are supposed to write here food model, and then we press alt enter, and again we press alt enter to import the type token list. And also here we have to put food model, we have to import the future callback, and also here you have to put food model. Then the error will disappear. So we can call this one a model, something like that, model, and then we are done with everything. So after doing this, we have to connect our adapter, which we code up here into our app. Let me copy this code. Allow me please to copy this code here. Yep. Let me try to copy this small code here. Okay. Now this is the code we have copied. Let us first neglect these guys. Let me first comment them. Let me first comment these guys here. Now here we first declare our adapter. We are going to say food adapter, and we give it an object name is equal to new food adapter. So after giving it a name, we can say, so we can call this one model list. Let me change this one to model list. So the food adapter you are seeing here, it had some parameters. So the parameters it had are the ones which are in the constructor here. Whenever you call this class elsewhere, they will demand for these two parameters. The first parameter is having a list, and the second parameter is having a context, meaning that when you call it here in this method, in this onComplete method, you have to ensure that here you put a list, which is our model list here up, and here they want a context. So for our case, you can say main activity.this, or you can put a context. And the good advantage of this IDE, it shows you this a small overview here which shows you it is a context, or you can put C. You can also write the word context since we declared it up here. You can use that one, or you can use the other one. They are all the same. Let me use this one, main activity.context, main activity.this. After finishing to declare this adapter, remember the adapter is the one which has to be assigned at the end of the day to our recycler view. What are we going to do next? We are going to say, since we declared our recycler view here up, we are going to copy that name, and we come here and we say rv.setAdapter. We have to set this adapter because it's the one which is going to be having all our items to this list, this recycler view, rv. And then after doing that, we have to say rv.hasFixedSize. You have to enable that fixed size. Then after doing that, we have to say rv.menu.setLayoutManager. This layout manager enables us to align the items. You can align them vertically, or you can align them horizontally. So you can use get application context here, and then after doing that, and we are done with that. But for the purposes of showing that data is loading, here up we have to add in what we call a progress bar. And how are we going to add a progress bar? Let me copy this small code here, and I paste it here, control space to enable it to enter. Let me say here main activity this, because this is the context. I think now we are so here this is the message of the progress dialog. We can say loading food list, something like that. So this one is going to first show, and then this one will fetch from the internet. After fetching from the internet, and then it inserts into our mobile application. Now lastly, we have to try and catch an exception, because we might get some error. So we have to try and catch an exception. Come here and you say exception x. You can put x around here, and then we make sure that if this progress dialog is running, first and foremost here you have to first dismiss it here, pd.dismiss. You have to dismiss it, because if you don't dismiss it, it will disturb you. You have to dismiss it. And also here you have to come and you say pd.dismiss. So that's done. You can also toast a message like here. You can also toast a message. This is the code for toasting a message. Control space, and then here you can say no data found. No data found. You can also get rid of this, and now you are done. So I am sure that this application is going to run very well. So after doing all this, you have to call back this method inside the onCreate, because remember I told you that whatever you want to be visible on the screen, you have to call it back in the method. So you have to say load for list, and then you call it back in the onCreate method. Lastly, the one which I think I didn't forget it, I've remembered it. We have to add lastly here a package name, an internet package name, which is going to allow us to access internet. So whenever you are going to deal with internet, you have to insert what we call a package name. So let us say here internet permissions. Whenever you are going to access a certain component, which is going to be when you are going to be using a certain hardware on a phone, you have to add in what we call permissions, not a package. You have to add in what we call permissions. So for our case, we are going to add in internet permissions, and we are going to see what are the permissions of the mobile application. I'm just going to give you a small overview about them. Alright, when we search here, you can come here and try to check the internet permissions. I'm sorry about that, I said packages. I don't know, I just confused it, but it's called a permission. You have to add permission. For example, if your application is going to deal with the camera, you have to add in the permission of the camera. For example, if your application is going to deal with the battery, you have to add in the permission of the battery. So whatever hardware which you are going to access, which you are going to use in your mobile application, you have to ensure that you add it in the Android manifest here on top of this application tag here. You have to add it up here, and then you be able to access what you want. So this is the code. You can take this code and you paste it here. It says users permission, Android name, blah blah, etc. Now let us prepare to run our application. Okay, let's run our application. There are no devices. Let me try to adjust it and make sure that it's connected. Alright, it's connected. Let us press OK. So when you press OK, you have to wait for it to run. Well, our application is now running. I guess you are seeing it. Oh, it has crashed. It has crashed. Where is the problem? Let us go back here and we check. If you want to check the problem, always you visit what we call a log cut. Inside the log cut here, you can change this verbose to error, and you see where exactly the problem is. So let us open the application again, and it shows us the error. We want to view the error because that wasn't the error. So this is the error here. So they are saying there is a null pointer exception and cannot pass null context into retrieve ion instance. So this is the problem they are saying here. So you can even come here on this blue thing and you click here. This is where the problem most of the time begins. So they are telling us that there is a null pointer exception, and they are saying that they cannot pass null context into retrieve ion instance. So maybe this context here is null. Let us try to identify the context. Main activity dot this. We identify the real context. So let us run again our application. You see, let us run again our application and we see. So it is installing. All right, it's now launching. Let us see if it's going to work. It's loading. It's loading. Wow, this has finally worked. So that is the list of our items, and you have successfully created a small application retrieving the JSON list. You can even check here. The first one is 1 burger or 10.5. Here it's 1 burger 10.5. Here it is 2 rice 100, 2 rice 100, 3 potato 34, 30. So all in all, this is the list. So it depends on the list which you are having, and then you just call it as we've seen in all those procedures, and then you'll be able to come out with this amazing list. You can customize it and you make it as beautiful as you want according to the context of what you think. So let me just stop here and let us meet in the next lecture, and we see how we can complete the CRUD: create, retrieve, update, and delete, and we try to tackle also onto the remaining ones. Okay, have a nice time.